welcome to the PetaPixel Podcast. For expert advice, incredible selection, and the best deals on photo, video, and lighting gear, you go to B&H. B&H is PetaPixel's new gear partner. And for even greater savings at B&H, we recommend the B&H Paybu credit card, which lets you save the tax. You pay the tax and B&H pays you back instantly. Save the tax on eligible purchases shipped to eligible states. Or you can pay over time with our 6 and 12-month financing on minimum purchases of $199 for 6 months or $599 for 12 months. Terms apply. Learn more at bhphoto.com/paybu. Credit card offers are subject to credit approval. Paybu credit card accounts are issued by Comenity Capital Bank. PetaPixel. PetaPixel. Go PetaPixel!
Wow. I like that one, actually. I'm going to give you...
What?
So Jaren's making the face that I would normally make, but I fully support Jordan as a cheerleader. I think that's fantastic. No, I love it. Great job, Jordan. That was
Welcome to the
excellent.
PetaPixel Podcast, everyone. I'm here with Chris Nichols and Jaren Schneider.
Jesus.
You're bringing the energy. I know that you're bringing the energy because you're actually going to be co-hosting with your favorite co-host. I know it's not us.
Man, what a champion he is. Love you too, Chris, but that Gordon Laing from Camera Labs, he's a delight, and we get to have a nice long conversation this episode. It's
Yeah, this is an extra long episode of the PetaPixel Podcast. It's the much awaited grading every camera maker. We do it every year, and we actually added one more this year because Hasselblad decided to show up and make something, so they get graded this year. It's a long one. That segment is over an hour long. I will break it up in the
Totally worth it.
description
Totally
and
worth it.
show where everyone is. But yeah, if you want to skip to that, you can. If not, but I don't recommend you do because we have so much else to talk about. But as usual, Jordan, I'm sure, has a question for us. He's going to run out eventually.
Because it's such a massive episode, I'm going to keep things breezy. So we're giving every camera manufacturer a grade in this episode for all of 2025. But gentlemen, what grade would you give yourself personally for the year of 2025?
Oh, God.
Between an F and an A, how'd you do?
C plus, B minus, maybe. I don't know, man. I mean, in terms
Expand
of what?
on that. Elaborate.
Like, in terms of what, Jordan? That's it. Like
Overall, everything.
As a
well, I
human
didn't
being,
release any cameras or lenses this year, so I guess that's a D minus. That's an F. But yeah, I don't know.
you managed to review them all, almost all. And that Lumix
We've been
100 to
super
500
busy.
eludes you.
Yes, we get an A plus for effort for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been working a lot of special projects this year, which has been super fun. So I've had super fun this year. So in that regard, I like it. And we made a vow to review a lot of the third-party lenses from China, and boy, did we ever. Oh, man, I think we exceeded that vow. So there's an A. You know, on a personal standpoint, you know, like, I don't know. Yeah, you know, that's too deep a question, man. It's like asking somebody what your favorite movie is. It's a horrible question. I'm sorry.
I got that ready to go for you, but go ahead. Jaren?
Given the economic challenges of 2025 and the fact that everyone is still employed here, I'm going to go ahead and give myself a B plus.
Yeah, dude.
Everyone got to keep their jobs. No one got pay cuts. Everything worked out. And yeah, our content was good. You guys did a lot of stuff. I think you guys did a very good job this year. There was a lot of things for you to review. You, Chris and Jordan, you reviewed a ton this year, Jordan, due to a lot of the video products. So you guys did great. I would give you both an A. I think you deserve it. But
Well, I disagree with your opinion, Jaren, and I'm giving myself a B this year.
Yeah, well.
I think my podcast intros were A plus, but
Especially this last one. Oh my God. Oh, dude.
But you know what? Like I said this year, I was going to take more time for myself and do some exercising and hang out with friends more, and it was a colossal failure on that front.
No.
But I kept up on my workload, and I haven't totally lost the pep. So yeah, I'm giving myself a B.
There you go.
All right. Well, on that note, let's get into the show.
For the viewers at home, you often see me looking to the side of the screen like this all the time. You're like, why is Chris looking over there? Well, I've got like 64 tabs open right now because we got a lot to talk about the PetaPixel podcast, including our sponsor today for this episode,
Essential Conversation.
Absolutely. Totally keeping it in there. Xire Photo, they actually make some really cool products, and we really appreciate them sponsoring this episode. And Xire is a program that's all about making your life easier, which is fantastic. Jordan absolutely needs this so that he can see his friends more and maybe like lift some weights or something, apparently, according to his evaluation, his self-evaluation.
I thought it was swimming.
Swimming,
I'd like to swim more too. Yeah, for sure.
So Xire Photo 2025, this is a standalone program, and it's using AI in a really smart way. But there is also Xire Search 2026, which is a dedicated plugin for Lightroom, which gives you almost all the same features. AI is a scary word, except when it makes your life easier. What Xire Photo lets you do is use AI-assisted technology to find your photos very easily. You've got really smart ways to search, don't you, Jordan? I mean, certainly keyword tagging.
You know what? Let me take over, because I love when AI makes my life easier, and I have a huge problem finding images. I don't always remember the year or the day or the month that I took them, which is how I organize my photos. So there's a prompt search tool there. You could just say like, man, I need some like chilling at the beach images, type in relaxing at the beach. There we go. We've got a whole variety of those. It's going to be way easier than poking through date and time constantly. Or like, hey, there's my friend Steve. I want to look up all the pictures of Steve and remember the good times we had together. Well, I can tag a picture of Steve and Xire will just say, hey, here they all are. We got all your hot Steve pics ready to go. Or if you do an event or something like that, you can sort by like who's smiling, age, gender, all kinds of options there to just streamline things for you. And I take bad pictures. I do take bad pictures, and I need a culling tool to like get rid of all the pictures where people are blinking, where things are out of focus, where I messed up my shutter speed, the whole frame is blurry. I don't want to look at that. I want Xire to cull that for me. So it can do that for you. And suddenly life is easier, and I'm giving myself a higher grade next year.
Wow. It's true, though. I mean, Jordan's often asking me, like, hey, can you find this photo, like, way back in the backlog? And there's so many cameras we reviewed. It's actually really handy to be able to do those keyword searches. But culling as well, yeah. I'm going through thousands of photos. It's in some cases literally, and it's very handy. But I also like this. You know, AI is a scary word. I don't like my file structure being changed. I don't want stuff uploaded to some server that I don't know about. And Xire doesn't do any of that, which I really like. It all runs locally on your computer. There's also no subscription fees. It's a lifetime license. I really appreciate that. So certainly look at Xire. We got a great deal right now because it's still Black Friday deals this time of year. Right now, you can get 30% off all Xire products. It's a big discount. Remember, this is lifetime subscription, so that's a big deal. Just put in PetaPixel 30. You'll get that 30% off, but it only goes through till December 7th, so you got to jump on this. You only have a few days left, so get on it right now.
All right. And with that, we'll get into the news. Not a ton this week. Well, I mean, something definitely stole the show. We'll get to that in the review roundup section, but we'll start with the basic news. You can now edit 32K video in DaVinci Resolve if you want, Jordan.
Oh, thank God. You know, I've been pushing up, button up against this constantly. Just like, well, how am I going to chop these 32s of Ks? This rocks because I just felt like we always talked about video editing as like the most processor demanding, like you have to buy an absolute tank of a computer. And they're saying this is editable on an M5 chip, which is truly impressive. So now we're seeing there's things where we're getting higher resolution camera sensors, but most consumer computers, if you buy a new one, will be able to handle that without breaking a sweat. I'm not going to be shooting 32K anytime soon because we never got to shoot on a sphere camera. What happened there? So I don't have the option for it. But yeah, there's even like the Blackmagic 12K cameras floating around right now. And people are saying you can work with those files quite easily on modern hardware. So yeah, I'm not cutting 32K, but it's just nice to know we've got tons of overhead to be able to work with future high-resolution camera files.
Yeah, the optimization is nice. That's essentially what this is. It's super optimized to run, not 32K, but 4K is fine.
Yeah, they're talking about it with BRAW, which is, you're working with compressed RAW formats that are very, very editable.
Chris, are you still using Resolve?
Yeah, for any, well, I've kind of switched over to Final Cut for iPad, Final Cut Pro for iPad, which is very basic, but it works for what I'm doing, and I like the interface. But I did use Resolve for a long time. I've now probably forgot everything that I knew about DaVinci Resolve editing, but I can certainly attest the fact that it is powerful software. I don't need 32K though.
No, I don't think really anyone does, but it just goes to show that it's possible.
All
right. What? Go on.
Well, this is cool. When I saw this headline on the website, the first thing that I was like is like, oh, dang, like, are we actually going to get a new phone? But no, Sony's done with phones. But they do make phone sensors. They have a brand new 200 megapixel sensor. Promises nearly 17 stops of dynamic range. And, you know, how do you say this? This is like one of the names of these sensors where it's like if somebody comes up to you and their kid's got a really trendy name and you're like, I don't want to, like, is it Lydia? Is it Lytia? Is it Lycia?
Lydia?
It's some Lydia. I don't know. Like, and then you're like, oh, her name's Lydia. And he's like, no, it's Lytia. Like, I don't know. Anyways, confusing name, interesting sensor.
It's a type 1 over 1.12.
Yes.
Yeah,
Lots
it's a
of hybrid
big
frame
one.
HDR, lots of dual conversion going. Yeah, they're getting away from dual conversion gain. They're going to hybrid frame technology.
Yeah, so this is where essentially we've talked about it before, but we're applying different amplification to different parts of the sensor. This has been on the way for a little while, but yeah, having tons of dynamic range in a smartphone sounds great. I can't wait to see it in things.
And
Chris, again, I know people. Oh, go ahead, Jared.
You said that Sony's not making smartphones. They are, just not for North America.
I haven't seen one in ages. Yeah.
They made one this year. You just can't buy it. It's not for you. They didn't make it for you, Chris.
And again, these 200 megapixel sensors, you know, they're quad bayers, right? They're 50s quad bayers. But at the same time, like Samsung, I'm using 200 megapixel sensors in a similar format, not with this dynamic range, but you do get resolution benefits. I mean, certainly there's some interesting shots.
So what you're saying is
it's usable.
This would be better in a 50 megapixel output.
It's hard to say. No, what I'm saying is like you do get better dynamic range, which is great at 50 megapixels, and we'll have to see what this sensor delivers. But there are use cases where having that 200 megapixel RAW does actually give you really good resolution and detail. So it's not just like a gimmick. I know it sounds so silly, 200 megapixels, but there are some situations where it's actually quite beneficial to have that, and you do notice the resolution difference.
Yeah. All right. Next story. Thypoch has a new Eureka 28f 2.8. So their Eureka line is when they make lenses designed similar to obscure lenses. So it's like their Light Lens Lab series of lenses. So the last one they had was the Eureka 50. It was the one that had the telescoping design that I happen to very much like. This one,
you did play with that quite a bit, yeah.
Yeah, I liked it. I had the 28 and that one at the same time, and I almost never used the 28 because I found the 50 to be so much nicer.
I shot some video in Chile with that, and I forgot to even mention that in the video. So if you liked how those Chile videos looked, that was the Thypoch.
This one is inspired by the lens on the Ilford Advocate camera. I mean, this is, talk about obscure. This is an exceptionally obscure optic. Chris, you have this lens in your house. Have you pulled it out of the box yet?
I have to go test it. Yeah, I haven't pulled it out of the box yet. But, you know, I believe the original on the Ilford was like, it's like a fixed lens. Like this looks like the kind of lens you would see permanently fixed to a retro camera. But of course, this is not. This is him, and I can adapt it to other stuff here. So I'm excited to play with it. I'm actually enjoying, I know a lot of people are saying like all these companies now out of Asia are making these vintage re-inspired lenses. I'm all for it. I think it's great because like a lot of this glass is still before my time. Like when I was at my my young man age, really into photography and playing with a lot of stuff, this was still ancient stuff. So and hard to get, right? You'd have to like find these in a dustbin, and they'd be like a lot of the old oils they used were, I think, even like whale derived and stuff. Like it's old school, and they would all gum up and need serious service and stuff. So like I'm all for these companies remaking the experience of getting to play with these vintage inspired classics that are very true to the original glass, the original look, the way the bokeh looks, the way that flare happens, and I think it's fun. It keeps photography fun. We don't need to be so grumpy and skeptical about everything. Why not? And if you don't like it, don't buy it. But the price is decent. It looks cool. The design's really nice. Thypoch have always had really good machining, so I'm excited to try it out.
I held and looked through a Leica M camera with this mounted on it at IBC in Amsterdam. I went to Thypoch. It's DZO Film too, like it's the same company. So that's why they had a booth. They showed me this and they're like, "What do you think?" And I'm like, "This lens is surprisingly heavy for its size." Like I picked, I was like, "Oh, this thing's weighty. This has got elements and nice parts." So it was really pretty. I think I would probably like this a lot because of how compact it makes it. So I'm curious what you think when you get a chance to try it out. This will be available starting in January. The one that you have, Chris, I believe is an early version. It's not final.
Oh,
so you're supposed to just like try it out and like see what your general thoughts are, and then we'll get you a final version when it's ready.
Gotcha. Interesting though. I love that it's inspired by the original 35 mil, but they decided to go 28 mil instead. And
like
there's
28.
reason. Well, I like 28. It'll be 28 on a Leica M, but it'll also be made for Fujifilm X mount. So I think they're also trying to cover the APS conversion there.
Yeah. All right. The last thing isn't really a news story, but it is an email we got from a listener, Gordon Bunker. Hi, Jaron. That was a great episode, especially the discussion about the stringer. Thank you for that. On the Fujifilm Fragment Edition camera, I found the tweaks for the film stem, have attached if you're interested. I've used it, lots of punch and grain, and I like it very much. So I'll put it on screen right now. You can see the Fragment film simulation recipe. I'll leave it here for just a little bit.
That.
So if you are interested in using, so if you need a bit of a recap, the GFX 100 RF got a special limited edition in Japan called the Fragment, and it has in it a custom film sim that you can only get in this special limited edition camera. Except you can also add it. Until now. You can now add it. Yeah, it's based on Acros. So there you go.
If you too want grainy as hell photos that are totally blown out and overexposed on top of that, and are still soft somehow but have real push in the midtones, this is the recipe for you.
You sound excited about it.
He didn't like it.
Not my thing.
Before we get to grading of a camera maker, which is what we'll do to end the show, that'll be the end of it. What we're going to do first is review Roundup. There were several products that were released in the last couple of weeks. We didn't do one last week because of the stringer, so I thought we'd do it. So we're going to look at what is coming out soon. First up is the Q3 monochrome. Hugh Brownstone says, Leica's...
I know him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Leica's Q3 monochrome is, like every Q ever made, industrial art. It is also the most advanced Q has ever made. It is the most advanced Q ever made with the very best image quality you can buy in a full-frame autofocusing camera. Period. Monochrome tonality already reminded me of nothing so much as medium format film, but the clarity of this particular sensor in this particular camera reminds me of nothing so much as medium format digital. 102 megapixel digital. I blank you not.
Bleep you not. Yeah.
Yes. So obviously Hugh likes it. He gives that his approval, but we also have an opinion from Kai Wong, which is a little bit contrarian to that.
I know him.
You also know Kai Wong. I think the Q3 is still the best full-frame compact camera, if you can call it compact. Phase detection, autofocus, 60 megapixels. It's made to be easy to use and versatile. It's as much at home taking artsy-fartsy street photos as it is taking your vacation photos. And video too. It's a camera for all situations. But by having it entirely in monochrome, it's not. With the Q3 monochrome, you really need to know that you want it and want it bad. I get the technical advantages of a monochrome sensor, the dynamic range, noise, microcontrast, all that stuff, but it would be silly to suggest someone stop shooting color due to noise and dynamic range. It's 2025. All cameras can do that stuff well. And I would feel silly suggesting you get a 5,800 euro camera, 5,800 pound camera for those reasons alone. And any potential owners should feel ashamed of themselves for telling others that they bought a monochrome-only camera for microcontrast and dynamic range.
Shame.
That's not why you buy them. You buy them because you know that you're only going to shoot black and white, whether, for a particular situation or ever, and in that regard, it's great for that. I like the simplicity. I like being able to just shoot. No, it's only black and white. And the image quality improvements are there. You can't poo-poo them. But yeah, Kai's right. Like, all cameras take great photos. That's not the point. But he was also right in that this does push and punch higher than a full-frame sensor normally would. So both can be right.
Next, that also is being recently reviewed. There's actually not a ton of reviews on this, which surprised me considering that we weren't actually very fast to get to it. The Canon 45 f1.2 STM lens. Gordon Laing, who we'll see here shortly.
Blank that guy.
Gordon says, ultimately, the 45 f1.2 was a refreshingly unique lens. Canon's first 45mm prime that's not either a specialty macro or a tilt shift model, and their first f1.2 aperture at this kind of price. It may not be optically stunning in my tests so far, but it does offer something genuinely different.
He's an astute fellow, I agree.
DP Review says the 45mm, this is actually specifically...
Sorry, I know them.
Richard. Specifically
Jesus.
Richard.
Oh, I know Richard.
The 45mm focal length is near perfect normal, offering neither a zoomed out nor zoomed in perspective. And I think a lot of people are going to find that really useful if this ends up being their one really bright prime. Does it match the image quality of the $2,600 50mm f1.2? Of course not. But then again, it costs substantially less.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like it.
No disagreements there?
No,
I think that's essentially
and
what
it's
everyone's
super
gonna do.
necessary because they won't open up third-party support. So
Yeah.
damn, I guess someone's
Yeah,
got to make
grades to follow.
affordable. Someone's got to make affordable ultra bright primes if they're not going to let anybody else do it.
And finally, A7 V.
A camera no one has strong opinions about.
Yeah, man. The online discourse on this one is harsh.
Already toxic. Only a
Yeah.
couple hours in.
Yeah.
Damn.
So Gerald Undone
We knew it always
says,
would be.
I know him.
It's 90% of the Alpha 1 Mark II, but at less than half the price. And they've also managed to close the gap significantly on their weaker aspects, like stabilization, which is now really quite good. I do wish they had fixed some of these persistent quirks I mentioned, and I really wish this camera had shutter angle, and false color or waveforms would be nice. But I do think they succeeded to reach my expectations on most fronts, and definitely on the most important ones. I would absolutely recommend this camera. And now that all brands have a chance to show their latest offerings in this category, I would pick this one from all the options if I had to start over from scratch as well.
I don't know if I agree with that, but it's a great camera.
And then Jason Vong says, so the cost of the A7 II honestly isn't much of a surprise to me. And if we consider this as literally half the cost of an A1 Mark II for nearly all of the same features, then this thing is a whopping steal in comparison. And honestly, pre-capture is an incredible feature, a powerful upgrade, but not something that many people would need outside of weddings, events, wildlife, and sports. One single frame results arguably is going to be very similar to the previous A7 Mark IV. So if you're taking one frame at a time and you're happy with the A7 Mark IV, then there's no reason to upgrade. A true upgrade lies in the overall user experience. 4K 60 no crop, real-time LUT preview. I think that probably means real-time LUT preview. Better autofocus, and of course, the 4-axis multi-angle LCD screen.
Yeah.
So
Totally agree with all of those. Can I quickly jump on and address the beauty mode? Because we didn't...
Please, it's
Yes.
the most popular part of the episode.
Okay, so I did have to film myself for this A7 V video portion, and if you swing out the fully articulating screen, the record is right beside the beauty mode option on its default settings. And yeah, I had no idea that I tapped that until I had shipped the camera back to Sony and started editing my footage. So yes, I hope everyone enjoyed that. It is absolutely nightmare fuel, and I'm very sorry.
It took years off. What Jordan's really saying is their control scheme is a little bit crowded, which I don't disagree with.
Addendum to the
Yes.
video. Watch out for that thing.
And Jordan's a great test for that. He will find ways to press buttons he's not supposed to be pressing. So, yes.
Something
but
that
everybody
Gerald
loves it.
actually also says in his review is that this camera, and I agree with this camera and like the R6 Mark III and the Nikon Z6 III or even any other cameras, they're not cameras that are making you switch systems.
No.
So this idea that a lot of people come into is like, oh, should I jump systems for this camera? The answer is going and should be no. These are designed for people who are already in those systems. And from that perspective, you have reason to upgrade in all these cases, right?
But at the same time, in the nature of our business is that we like to compare technology against each other.
Course,
And I mean, and we have our best and worst coming out here shortly, right? As usual, our annual thing. And like, no doubt, these two cameras compete very, very close to each other. We didn't really have an idea of price until right before the review. And, Sony was thinking this camera might have even pushed north of $3,000. Luckily, it didn't, but it's close. It's definitely more expensive than the R6 Mark III, and I think that does make the R6 Mark III even more appealing. But yeah, like it's either way, we got two I want to include the S1 too. We got three fantastic mid-range cameras this year for different reasons, but these two especially, I mean, very interesting that they're so close and very powerful.
That seems like a dope segue to ranking all of the things that came out this year.
Damn.
Yeah, so
I'm gonna buy a Segway. I'm gonna do the podcast from a Segway. I'll be standing in the office on a Segway from now on because I'm the king of Segways.
I think we have enough technical issues sitting and trying to do the podcast. Right. I think on the road might be a concern.
It'll be a good AF test. Whatever.
All right, on that note, let's bring in Gordon and do our grading every camera maker in 2025.
All right, it is that time again where we are bringing out the pencils and paper and grading all of the camera manufacturers. And this is a daunting task that we could not attempt to accomplish without the help of our good friend and the most frequent guest, on the PetaPixel Podcast. It's Gordon Laing, damn it, from Camera Labs.
Yeah.
From Gordon Gets Coffee.
The only one who comes close to him is Kazuda Yamaki-san, who's on this podcast
right.
regularly.
But he's a little biased. He's a little biased when it comes to grading camera manufacturers.
He keeps giving his company an A+ every time, so he's disqualified.
And everybody gets a fail or a no-show. Yes, Gordon, great to have you back. Your expertise is always treasured. And
great to be here. Thanks for having me.
I don't know if we could do a grading episode without you. It wouldn't feel right. So, plus, just to give context, earlier in the year, we did a grade on the manufacturers up to sort of the midway point of 2025, and you were attending that. So we need you here to then say, have they gotten better? Have they gotten worse? Have our grades changed? So that's what we're going to do today.
And it's important, I think, to establish that this is a grade just for this year for the manufacturers. This is not an overall. So we're looking at 2025. We're factoring in the first half of the year and the back half, and we're giving now a grade for the entire 2025.
Right. Are you ready, Gordon?
I was born ready.
So I have everyone's grades here. So I will recap what everyone gave them at their midterms.
Yeah.
And we're going to go in no particular order. And also, I am adding one more in here because they actually did something this year worth talking about. So we'll get to them. It's Hasselblad. I've added them in. They were not discussed earlier at the midterms because they had done nothing. But they've done something now, so now you have to give them a grade. So we're going to start with Canon. Not because it starts with a C. It just happens to be the one we started with last time. And the order is going to go Jordan, Chris, Gordon, and then me. So, Jordan, you're up. You gave Canon a C at the midway point. What are your thoughts?
That sounds right. Yeah, it was a very video-focused start to the year with Canon. But since then, we've had a couple things. We have been clamoring for Canon, since they don't allow third-party lenses. Make some affordable lenses. And we already touched earlier on this episode about the review of the 45-1.2. That's out. I think that rocks. They desperately needed some interesting competition. I think it's important just that they give people an affordable shallow depth of field option because they're in all the other mounts. So I think that's good. And they dropped the R6 III, one of the most well-rounded cameras ever made. But I can't let them slide into A tier without some third-party glass options on the full-frame bodies. So I'm giving them the highest possible grade they can get, B+, until they allow those third-party lens options.
You actually gave them the lowest grade at the start of the year, or the midpoint of the year. So
yeah,
B+,
you gave them a C.
I think it's a big rebound. I think they listened to a lot of our concerns this year.
I mean, the 45 mil certainly, it makes a lot of sense. It's affordable. It certainly got a lot of the reviewers excited. And, testing it has its place. It's a decent lens. It's not amazing, but I think it's got a good place to it. They came out with an 85 millimeter f1.4, which was a nice lens, kind of round out their VCM line, but nobody really talks about it.
It's stupid expensive.
Yeah, sure. It's expensive, and also I feel like the VCM lenses, I don't know that people are jazzed about it because as much as they want to say it's hybrid, I think people see them as video lenses or something. I don't know. But the R6 Mark III was an exceptionally good camera, and it came out of nowhere. And so, yeah, Canon has upped their grade. I gave them a C+ last year, so yeah, I'll go B- as well. I just think not as big a jump, but they definitely improved this year, bringing out some stuff. They definitely improved.
So you said last year, you mean earlier in the year, you gave them a C+.
Earlier in the year, yes.
You've bumped them to a B-.
B-. Yeah.
Gordon, you gave them a B at the midway point. Where are they now?
Well, I think it's very easy and popular to bash Canon. And I'm not going to do that because I think they've actually had a very strong year. So they had a pretty strong first half. And as you say, in the second half, we've got the R6 III, which is obviously a huge launch for them. We've got two interesting lenses, and I think it really shows where they're going sort of direction-wise in filling out different areas. So as Chris said, we got the RF85 1.4, which is, fleshing out their L series. I think that is probably the biggest lens that we're going to see, longest focal length we're going to see from them that will fit into that unified body that they've created.
Yeah.
I think also, interestingly, when I tested it, it wasn't quite an 85. I'd say it was a little bit shorter than that. So maybe they couldn't actually fit an 85 into that shape. I think that it merits further investigation. But anyway, that was them pursuing the high end. But then the 45 1.2 is them pursuing them having a bit of fun, right? A bit like the 16 2.8. These are lenses that, when I first started out in photography in the 70s and 80s, these are lenses I could only dream of owning, super bright, standard or telephoto lenses and super wide angles. Yes, they are relying on a lot of digital corrections. Yes, they've got some issues optically, especially the 45 1.2 in terms of coloured fringing, but they're fun, right? And I think, it's very easy to kind of write Canon off as not a fun company. They're a lot of things, but they're not fun. But this is them having fun, and I think that's a good thing. And also, remember, they did dip their toe in the water that Panasonic did last year when Panasonic re-released one of their old compacts. Canon did that this year with the Ixus 285 or ELPH 360, I think it's called in North America. I'd be interested to see, as I'm sure they're interested to see whether anybody will buy that, because it's like £300-400 or dollars. Be interesting to see whether there is demand for that. So I'd say fairly strong. Bonus points. I'm going to give Canon bonus points for releasing the R6 III before all of the holiday discounting period, because when it comes to Black Friday and Cyber Monday and that whole kind of discount time, any cameras that have got a lot of discount, there's going to be a new one coming out, but you may not know what the specs are. Right. All you've got to do is rely on rumors and, speculation. And the manufacturers are going, oh, maybe we're going to release something the day after Cyber Monday, but we're not saying what it is or what it'll do. Whereas Canon came out a few weeks ago and said, look, here's what we've got. We're going to keep selling this one. It's going to be discounted. You can decide. You can make an educated choice. So bonus points for that. So I was actually going to give them an A+.
What?
Which sounds outrageously high.
That's outrageous.
I was going to give him that. However, then I remembered the whole third party thing, and I have to demote them for that continued lack of support. But I'm still going to give them an A, maybe an A-, but still definitely an A, because I think they've had a really strong year.
A or A-?
Which is it going to be?
Yeah, you got to pick one.
Oh, I'm going to give them A- because of their sheer outrage that I got from my colleagues here on the podcast.
Sheer outrage.
Sheer outrage.
I'm actually going to come pretty close to agreeing with you, Gordon. So I gave them a B- at the end of at the middle point of the year. And I was just looking at everything we got this year, and I'm pretty happy. We got a cinema camera. We got the R6 III. We got multiple new lenses. To understand Canon, everything they do is a business decision. So that's why we're not getting third-party support. So I think A- feels right. I think they did a very good job this year supporting their shooters. They went the extra mile and made sure that open gate was a thing. They added it to the C400. Then they put it on both of their new cameras. It might not be the biggest thing for everyone, but it's a big thing for a lot of people. And so from that perspective, I'm glad they did it. And there are some companies who have not yet. So with that in mind, A-.
Wow. How did I give him the lowest grade? That's weird. The R6
Because you're a big meanie, Chris. You're a big meanie.
That must be it. Why. I'm just,
I've always said it.
A big meanie.
You have always said it.
And now we're seeing evidence for it.
The R6 III is an A+, though, for sure. For sure.
Yeah. Okay. Next up is the one that Gordon will have no opinion on because he doesn't get them, right?
You have
Nikon?
to say it.
You still don't get Nikon?
It's Nikon.
I don't. No.
Okay. Well.
Yeah, but I do get Nikon. That's right.
Well, all right. We'll start then with Jordan. Jordan, you gave Nikon a B+, midway point of the year. How'd they do at the end of the year?
Yeah, so this year we got the ZR, a very cool little cinema-focused camera with some interesting technology from Red. And they actually fleshed out their APS-C line a little bit, 16 to 50, 2.8, and the 35-1.7, which doubles as a macro lens. We've been complaining quite a bit. These companies are ignoring their APS-C line. That's great. We've been saying Nikon's going to move into video. They brought out a video camera. It's great. And they kicked things off with the Z5 II, which is an insanely well-rounded camera this year. So I am maintaining my grade. I think they're doing very well, but we haven't seen a lot of new stuff on the high end. Like I do think the Z9 is getting a little long in the tooth right now. So I'm going to go B+ still. I'm maintaining their grade.
Chris, you gave them an A.
I did give them an A because I think the Z5 II just impressed me so much, and maybe I was, and they have had a good year. And since then, like we talk about what they've released, it hasn't been that much. I mean, the ZR, absolutely a great camera. Obviously not really aimed at me, which is fine, but I mean, Jordan appreciated it and liked it, but even then it felt like it was overshadowed by other cameras that were already available. So, the ZR I don't think has made quite the hit that maybe we experienced, but I know a lot of people, it does fit them very well. I gave them an A, and actually I'm going to go down to a B- because it's really just been in the mid-year, the ZR, and an update to the 24-70, the legendary 24-70, now a version 2, which is an awesome lens.
Yeah,
great
one of the best standard zooms ever.
Sure. The original was, and so the second one even better. Great. Awesome. Improve on greatness. That's awesome. But that's it. Like 2 products and they're good, but it's been sort of a, for me, it's been a bit of a down path from their strong start. So I still think they've done well, but I mean, B+. They're going to go down to a B+ for me. I can't give them an A based on the second half of the year.
So I'm sorry, you said B-?
B+. B+.
B+. Okay.
They've dropped a little bit.
Gordon, you are abstaining, correct? Just double checking.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. So I think it's easy to look at Nikon and be like how impressed we were at the beginning of the year. So I gave them an A-. And then like they didn't have the super strong finish that I think they had last year. Like last year had a really strong finish.
Z6 year, yeah.
Yeah, that makes us feel like maybe they didn't do as good this year. But I want to remind you that in addition to those 2 APS-C lenses, the 16-50 f2.8 and the 35-1.7, they also did the 24-70 f2.8s2, which is a spectacular zoom lens. They also updated the ZF to improve its focus and gave it that film grain thing. That's neat. They told us they're actively developing dedicated Nikon cinema lenses. So like they're making stuff. I think and then of course there's the ZR. So I think it's sort of unfair to give Nikon a downgrade. I think that I'm going to be with Jordan, and I'm going to maintain my A-. I think I agree with you, Jordan. The Z9 is getting a little long in the tooth, but only in that it's older, just in age. As far as performance goes, it's still like if you put we did a blind camera performance thing and stuck just its specs up.
I want a better viewfinder.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which they've proven they have, right? They have it. They just they haven't.
It's in the Z6 III now. So.
Right.
Yeah. I just feel like the Z9 gets. It's not that it gets a bad deal because this Nikon built it this way, so it's not. It's not getting an unfair deal. I think it's just. We knew the Z8 would overshadow it. It did at the time of the release. And I think now, years later, we're really feeling that. Like, I feel like the Z9 is really obscure now. It's lost in obscurity. And the word on the street is like, it needs to be updated, right? Everybody's like, this camera needs
I can't walk down the street without people like, Jordan, when are they going to update that Z9? And I'm like, I'm just trying to buy groceries. I'm sorry.
So
you think that's a joke, but that does literally happen. Like it needs to improve.
Do you guys, here's probably why Nikon hasn't updated it, is because what they would probably do is just update all of the hardware around it except the sensor. I'm not sure that there's a sensor that they can replace it with yet, and they probably said that won't be enough. People already complain when it's like OM1 versus OM1 Mark II. That wasn't a big enough jump. People are like, can that really be a Mark II? So I'm guessing.
Do they complain about that?
Somebody does.
Somebody always complains, Gordon.
No, I know.
So it's like,
but
I think they were wrestling with that. Do we do an upgraded EVF and LCD? Do we improve some other features? But if the resolution stayed the same, if the core sensor stayed the same, I think you would find people would still be less enthused about it. So they likely decided to wait until they could make a sensor improvement. Yeah. That's why we haven't seen that
a lot. Processor gets better. That's basically the world that we live in nowadays.
So on that note, let's talk about Sony.
Ooh.
So very, very fresh, hot, steaming out of the oven. We got a new camera launched.
I'm glad you said out of the oven.
Yeah.
What? Is that weird? Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. Anyway, we got a new camera this week. So that's definitely going to play into the scoring, I'm sure. Jordan, you gave Sony a B- at the midway point of the year. Where do they stand now?
That sounds right. Yeah, it was a B-. I was a little underwhelmed with the FX2, but their glass is still outstanding. That 50-150 I truly love. But now we've got an A7 IV, and yeah, it's a phenomenal, extremely well-rounded camera. I know there seems to be like quite a bit of despair online about the price, but it can do pretty much everything, which the A7 IV I didn't find it as well. So with that in mind, I am moving Sony up to a B+ with that. But the one concern I'm really having is with their entry level. I mean, like the A6100 is years old at this point. A lack of affordable glass this year. They really seem focused on the high end, which I think does make some sense. But I'd love to see, like, if you drop a new A6000 series entry level and a new RX100 next year, we got a pretty damn fully featured lineup. But this year, I just felt like that was hurting a little bit. But definitely the A7 V bumped their score.
Yeah.
Chris, you gave Sony
C-.
C-.
Yeah, I was harsh last year. So this is similar. I feel like a lot of the companies, I was hard on them because I felt like I wanted to see them do more. And they did. And Sony's a good example of where they've done that as well. Obviously, the A7 V, awesome camera. Expensive, but like $100 more than the Canon. So, and they are very comparable cameras in a lot of ways. There's no denying that it's still a very functional camera. I think a lot of people are upset the fact that the body design hasn't changed. You know, Sony's really going with this everything the same now. Like, this is our body design. Everything's going to have it. It's never been a sexy body design, but they are compact and they are very functional. And I mean, the menu system's great. And once you get used to them, they work. They work as a tool. And I think Sony's kind of embracing that feeling that the entire community seems to be having, where it's like soulless but excellent tools, right? And as a working pro, you just want a tool that works. And so I think that's why they're sticking to this same design strategy across their whole line. But it's not exciting. It's kind of stagnant feeling in some ways. I get it. But also great lenses. I mean, Sony have proven that when they release lenses, they make fantastic optics. I don't know that people get enough, give them enough credit for that. The 100mm macro came out, awesome lens, beautiful, that you can't really complain too much about it. The 50-150, awesome lens as well. So we have these interesting optics coming out from Sony, and the only downside is everything's getting more expensive. But that's something we're seeing across the board. Everybody is getting more expensive. So yeah, you got to pay for it to get that quality. I know that sucks, but no company has third-party support like they do. So you still have that outlet. If you don't want to spend the money for Sony optics, you've got great Sigma optics. You've got great third-party optics as well. So I still got to give it to them as being a fantastic brand. So they're going to go up to a B+ for me this year. Good lenses coming out. That body came out, at least doing as well as Nikon and Canon.
Gordon? You had a lot of thinking face there as Chris was talking.
I did. That was my good thinking face.
I
wanted to pick up on. Okay, I wanted to pick up on things that Jordan and Chris said. When Jordan mentioned that they don't have an entry level body, they kind of haven't for a while. And the interesting thing is, at this time of year, I get a lot of people asking me, I want to buy a budget camera for Christmas or something. And then you look at what are actually designed to be budget entry-level cameras, and you get companies like, say, Canon that do an R100 and then an R50. But what Sony generally does is they just keep discounting the older models. So like obviously the A7 IV we know is continuing, the A7 III is continuing at even cheaper. I wouldn't be surprised if someone is still trying to push some stock of an A7 II somewhere. And that's their strategy, but they're not entry-level cameras. They're kind of entry-level prices, but it's not very comfortable. And in some respects, when a camera is actually that old, there's some bits of technology that you take for granted today that are missing. So I do miss that they don't have an actual, let's try and make an entry-level camera. Clearly, it's not something that is a priority. To follow up on Chris's comment on lenses, I think that 100 macro is phenomenal. My goodness, they kept us waiting a long time for a new macro lens. I mean, is it that unpopular a segment? I thought macro was quite a thing. But when it did finally come out, it blew everything else away. It's the best macro lens I've tested. It's just phenomenal. And if you're into, macro photography at an extremely, extremely small level, and you could exploit things like 1.4 times magnification or more with a teleconverter, then it would make you want to go for the Sony system. And finally, an A7 IV, the interesting thing for me comparing that against the R6 III is that Sony has, by whatever reason, come up with something that's probably more appealing to photographers, and Canon have come up with something that's possibly more appealing to videographers. If you're looking at the very specific things, I mean, they're both great all-round cameras that would do anything. But then you look at the Canon with internal and external raw video, open gate, 7K, and then you look at the Sony, which doesn't have any of those things and is looking really old-fashioned because of it, blaming the codec again, or maybe it's the processor. I'm a little bit unhappy about that because it kind of says to me, since this is a new processor, I'm sure it could run different firmware, which could have a new codec in it, but I think it's committing to no open gate going forward for the next few models. That was my guess. So, obviously we had the RX1R Mark III as well, and that is what it is. I would say
doesn't affect the grade at all.
Well, it is what it is, right? It's like when we rate Leica. If you want it, they've got it.
Yeah, it's never been a value proposition or a every man's camera. Yeah.
Now I thought, Jaron, did you say I gave them? I thought I gave them a B-.
I have
midway.
C+ on here, but
maybe I was in a grumpy mood. I'm going to take them up to a B+ because we've been waiting so long for the A7 V. We finally got it, and they've done some phenomenal lenses this year, including an industry leader with that macro.
Yeah.
So I am going to give them a B+, but crumbs, they have got to get that codec sorted out. They can't keep hiding behind that excuse.
I'm not confident, but I'm optimistic, though, that we're going to see some improvements to the A7 V going forward that might be quite interesting.
You think they're going to
famously great at firmware updates, aren't they?
They're famously not great.
Didn't they just brick a bunch of A7 IVs this week?
Yeah, so the way Sony approaches their camera design, like their software is from the very beginning for years, they just don't go to it with the approach that they're going to do anything post-sale. So like the software in the camera isn't really built to accept changes, which is
right.
You know what? Kind of a theme here with Sony's cameras. Things aren't built to accept changes, and something that has changed is that everyone else did something that Sony now can't because of XAVC, I think. Is that what it is? XAVCS or whatever?
Yeah.
Their codec, which I've, by the way, never liked. I have never liked that codec. One of the things that I've not liked about using Sony cameras is specifically because of how it records video. I've just never enjoyed it. But that said, I sound like I'm going to be really hard on them. I'm not, actually. Everything that came out recently, so they have a new 28-70 f3.5 to 5.6 that came out with this camera, the A7 V. That's brand new. They have the A7 V. They released a bunch of new accessories. You guys might have missed this, but you can now get a really cool rain cover for your Alpha series cameras in either white or black.
Totally missed that.
Yep, that's a Sony product. They were the first camera company to verify the authenticity of video content in October.
Love it.
They upgraded the A1 II and A9 III with AF improvements, made it even better at tracking. We got that 100 millimeter, and we got the RX1R Mark III. So they've been doing things. I think the problem is the expectation that Sony set in the previous decade was that they were going to absolutely steamroll previous expectations. But we've reached, as Chris says repeatedly, we've reached like this plateau of sensor technology. And even processor technology is slowing significantly. Yeah. So when you get a new camera, it's not going to blow you away like the previous cameras were. But Sony has then shifted to being like, well, we can make better optics than everyone else. But also, as you said, Chris, that just doesn't impress people the same way as a camera hardware spec does. So I think Sony deserves more credit for doing things where they know they can be still blowing away the competition. The 100 millimeter was really just like, people did not appreciate that as much as I thought they were going to, because it is a really cool lens.
It's an awesome lens.
So I look at what Sony is doing, and I know there's room for improvement. And it's weird to put them in this position because previously they were so good and so much better than everyone. But they are now essentially moving at the same pace as everyone else, and everyone else just caught up and even superseded them in some cases.
Yeah.
That said, I still think I'm going to give them the only not B grade here. I'm going to give them an A-.
Whoa!
I think they did a really good job this year. It's not for me. I'm not going to buy an A7 IV. I'm not a Sony shooter. But for people who are in Sony's system, who are either on an A7 III or an A7 IV, the A7 V does have significant improvements. I mean, Jeremy is publishing a story today, 15 notable improvements between the A7 IV and A7 V. Imagine if you're coming from the A7 III. That's going to be a gigantic leap.
Sure.
So
God.
I think it's worthy of
Great
praise.
Scott.
I think people are very hard on Sony. They've lost their cool cachet that they had over the years, and so everyone feels like they can go hard on them now. But objectively, I think they did a good job this year.
Yeah. You bring up a good point. This is probably the best all-around sensor on the market now, and improving processing power is always a positive thing. And it's like,
yeah, it stinks because they did improve processing significantly, but boy, is that boring on paper.
It's boring on paper.
Yeah.
But it's still the best. It's probably the best sensor for most people now, and a great hybrid sensor. Hopefully, they'll actually make use of it. But it is great. I think just as a point to make that you already made is like, it's so great to see now Sony's dominance in the last 3 years is disappearing. And it's so great to see Nikon and Canon, especially with Canon's own sensor technology. They're kind of like the outlier there, are able to now really compete straight on with Sony.
It's wild how long that took, right?
Yeah, it's wild how long it took.
Sony was king for well over a decade, and everyone was so behind. Yeah, it's really
awesome
nice
for the consumer. It's
to
awesome
finally
for the
be
consumer.
back where it's like parity.
Yeah, and it really puts pressure on Sony now to really. I mean, not to give too much details, but they were actively talking to us and being like, "This R6 III, like, is this going to be a thing? Is this going to be an issue? Are we going to be worried?" Like, they're a little. They realize it. They're like, "Damn, man."
My guess is there's people who've worked at Sony and have only ever experienced life there when they were easily king. So this experience of watching Canon actually make something great and watching Nikon make great stuff for like half the price sometimes. Oh, there was one more note I wanted to mention. You guys talked about their lack of an entry-level camera, and I think that's because a lot of companies will go APS-C for their entry level, and Sony, I've said this before, they boxed themselves in because they were so hard on you need full frame that anytime they would launch an APS-C camera, it was actively in contrast to the marketing of the rest of their line. It just it clashed. So they can't really market APS-C and say you can get that and also simultaneously say you need full frame. They're stuck. And by the way, you don't need full frame. You absolutely don't need full frame. But Sony convinced so many people that they do that trying to sell not full frame, their brains explode. So they can't do it. All right, let's move on.
Okay.
Panasonic Lumix. They had a heck of a start to the year. Everyone gave them glowing scores. Jordan, you gave them an A-. How did they end the year?
So they've been quite quiet this year. We did get the new 1-500, which I swear to God is still on the schedule, people. It's just this end of the year got a little bit busy for us. But it's nice to see a Super Tele from them. They made some excellent ones in Micro Four Thirds, but that's been a gap in the S series, although you could always lean on Sigma for it. And I kind of struggled with this, but the first half was so strong. And we saw a massive firmware update right before we got this that actually addressed a lot of my concerns with them. Like having eye detect with the box. It's crazy how happy that makes me. I was just out shooting the other day. That box on Chris's eye, as opposed to the crosshairs I've never liked, was a big deal. Overheating has been a concern with S1R. 2 users, that is substantially better now. So I'm going to maintain, it's not a huge amount of releases for them, but I love that S1 too, and I'm going to stick with an A-.
Huh. I kind of want to change my grade on the Canon to a solid B, Jaron. I gave him a B-, but I think Canon should have a solid B, and this really cements it for me because I think Panasonic should now go down to B-. I gave him an A- last year. B-, now because it has actually been kind of a disappointing back half. And, Jordan does make good points. Like, firmware updates are important. They're certainly doing that. But there's still no denying that Panasonic drives me crazy and that they're still really aimed at the videographer. No matter what they want to say, nobody's convinced. Their autofocus really is now showing it needs to improve. It really does. It's not even showing its age because their autofocus technology has been ramping up in the last few years. It's just not there. And Canon and Nikon are there. So Panasonic now is very obviously the odd person out in that regard. And then what did they come out with? A 100 to 500? I haven't tested it. It's a nice range, but it's not an exciting lens. I'll play with it. I'm sure it'll do good. But again, the sharpness of that lens, so to speak, is blunted by, would I use this for wildlife and sports? Probably not. And that's because the bodies just don't really hold up for me in those situations when I know that there's much better tools available if I had to go into it. So yes, and I always say this, because the Panasonic guys out there yelling at me right now, like, how dare you? I take masterful shots of wildlife and sports with my Panasonic. I'm sure you can. Absolutely you can, okay? I know you can. But if I was a prospective buyer and I wanted to have a versatile camera, it would not be a Panasonic camera, I'm sorry. So, until they really compete in that regard, I can't give them anything higher. So it's not right to give them a B or a B+, in my opinion, when I'm giving Canon a B-. So I'd like to change. Canon gets a solid B.
Mm-hmm.
And Panasonic down to B-. But, look, great video cameras. Part of my grade was just because Jordan was so happy the first half of this year.
Still am.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Because you're the target audience.
Yeah, we have to look at the whole year now, holistically.
Yes.
And the second half of the year was really
it's a weak half.
Slow. Yeah.
Weak half of the year. Yeah.
Gordon, what do you think? You gave them an A- back in June, July.
Yeah, a really strong start, as everyone said. 3 cameras, although officially 2.5, because one was very similar to
the other one
another one.
No.
2 lenses this year, the 100 to 500 being in the second half, which I have reviewed. And your suspicion was correct, Chris, in that the range is great. It's an extremely useful range for wildlife, sort of near to mid-range, not super fast or super small stuff, but it's really flexible. But that the AF system just wasn't as decisive as I'd want it to be for at least fast-moving wildlife. If it's static, if it's perched or just moving quite slowly, absolutely fine. And the ability to shoot all those different video formats. And, I think the S1 II is a tremendous body. Unless we forget 5 million dot viewfinder as well. And I'd be interested to see what the price does on the S1 II now that we've got the R6 III and the A7 V, and Panasonic knows for sure, everyone knows for sure what those specs are. So, because at the moment it's a little bit higher, or it was when we recorded this. I wouldn't be surprised if it maybe lowers itself a little bit to be closer to those two models. So yeah, if you want to do like really serious, fast-moving wildlife, I probably might look to another system. And the 100 to 500, quality-wise, was very good, but it was quite expensive. And I think the L-mount system has got a bit of an issue in that Sigma is producing effectively first-party quality, but at third-party prices. So you've got their 100 to 400, which is like almost half the price, I think it was, of the 100 to 500. Really similar quality, and it just made them look a bit expensive. So I think they're in a bit of a uncomfortable position lens-wise.
Yeah, totally.
Because it's not a light lens either. They're not doing, every time you review, say, a new Sony or a Canon lens, sometimes you're like, crikey, this is really light. You know, they've employed all the new materials that they can find, all the new optics, the new shells. A lot of people go, oh, it's not metal, it's plastic. But, you know, the benefit of that is that it is light. And, you know, it just felt it wasn't in the same league, really. So I would say I'm going to give them, though, a lot of props for doing the firmware updates, you know, because we complain when other people don't, and here they have. And I think they deserve a lot of credit for that, because it's quite unusual now, I think, for a company to provide as many updates as Panasonic has. So I'm giving them props for that, and I'm going to maintain the grade that I gave them. Well, I'm going to give them a B+ anyway, which I believe is what I gave them before.
No, you gave them an A-.
Well, then they've gone down to a B+ because there weren't enough products. But they're getting that level for the firmware updates most of all. So keep that up. And remember, it's not too late to do a 26 or 28 millimeter with an f2.8 and autofocus. That's small. It's not too late. Please give it to us.
Yeah, who knows what'll come out here, but I doubt it.
You guys have basically said everything that's on my mind. I think for me, and Gordon, you're really making me think about this. Every other first-party manufacturer is making some lens in some way that's like, puff out the chest, we can do something cool. And I don't think Lumix, to me, has ever done that. It's always been like, yeah, we make this lens. It looks like the other lenses that are out there, but we made it.
51.4, the 1.7 zooms, going back to micro four thirds, but it's been a while.
See, that's the thing. It's been a while. I'm looking
24
at
to 60. 24 to 60.
24 to 60 was
a
cool.
nice lens. That was a nice lens.
It's fine. It's not like
I mean, in their defense, they made a 20 to 60 that was really affordable. That was their standard kit zoom with a really wide end. But again, you don't go wow. I mean, you go wow at the wide coverage, but you don't go.
I'm looking for something like L and Nikon S and like their named lenses, and I'm looking for a G Master. I want them to blow me away. I just don't think they have the investment in their own optics division right now to do that. And I think for them to actually do this, they would have to invest more money, and they would have to rebrand and really be like, this is what we're going for. And they just don't. And I think they lean too heavily on Sigma. That's why. I think they're like, Sigma's out there. Like, why do it? They've already done the thing. And that's fine. Whatever. It just limits the number of things Lumix can do during the year, other than release cameras and, you know, more affordable optics or mid-range optics. So I also agree with you, Jordan. I think we should be, or sorry, Gordon. I get you and Jordan's brother mixed up. I think we should definitely give them a thumbs up for their firmware updates. I think the last one, the one that just came out for the S1 II and the S1R2, are spectacular. Yeah. I just do think that from a product standpoint, they become so forgettable. People forget they're there because they're just not out doing stuff. Instead, they're removing things like pro support in Europe. So I'm going to give them a solid B. I'm coming down from an A. It's a perfectly acceptable year, above average. But the S1 II is doing the entirety of that lifting for my score.
Panasonic's in a tougher situation than I think people realize. I think that they're really kind of in a crossroads right now.
Yeah.
They can absolutely make beautiful lenses. There's no doubt. There's just no point. Yeah.
Yeah, but they don't.
Proper stabilization.
The stabilization has always been good. I don't know that I can
hybrid zoom. They've got so many features. They've got so many good things in those cameras.
It's all great for video. And their lenses are expensive because I think they optimize them for video. I have no doubt Panasonic can make stunningly good optics, but they make so many optics for other companies as well as like third party that we don't really realize. They make a lot of optics for other third parties. But why invest in an amazing photographic lens that'll blow people away if your cameras don't really take advantage of it? It's kind of what I think it is.
Let's move on to Fujifilm. Yeah. Jordan, you gave Fujifilm a B at the midway point. Where do they stand now?
So this year we've seen basically a lot of repackaging of existing Fujifilm tech. So they've moved some of it into different body styles, with the XE5, with the what's the other 50? The XT50 as well. And then we got the XT32, which was just a processor bump on an existing camera model.
Isn't it the 3?
It's the 3, yeah.
XT33.
Oh, sorry.
3.
XT33.
You're forgiven. It's the same camera.
Yeah, exactly.
The shade.
But and then they brought out the X half, which I don't like. I love some of the concepts of it. I think it's a super fun idea, like their film mode and stuff like that. But with a relatively slow lens and a Type 1 sensor. So your smartphone with a faster lens and computational photography will take better pictures. So I think we've seen a lot of people like, oh, that looks super fun and cool, and then get bored with it because the results aren't there. So I want to see more from Fujifilm in terms of like new innovative stuff. I want to see that film mode functionality come as firmware to some of their other bodies. I think that will make a ton of sense for them to do, where you have to shoot a certain number of exposures and develop it. That would be a fun thing. And Fujifilm used to be known as the best firmware company. That's not the case anymore. It's Nikon or Panasonic. They've kind of let those things stagnate, and they still have a real AF problem right now. Their highest end cameras still will not focus. I mean, we give Panasonic a hard time. I'll take Panasonic AF over Fujifilm any day. So I'm going
Yeah, I agree
B
with that.
minus.
Whoa. Yeah.
You said wait, hold on, sorry. You said B minus, Jordan. So you've
minus
dropped
for
their
Jordan.
score down. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know what? I'm going to drop it down too. I gave him an A last year, and I gave him an A
Earlier
last
this year, not last year. Earlier this year.
Oh, sorry, I keep saying that. Yes, the start of this
Chris
year.
operates on 6-month years, Jaron. You should know that.
I do. That's
He's
why
got
I'm
his own
aging-
calendar.
That's why I'm aging so fast.
He's at his own pace.
Ugh. I'm like a dog. So
Chris years.
Can I cut out that audio and use it all the time?
yeah, exactly. So I gave him an A last year because, the RF 100 was amazing. Like all these new cameras that they came out with, the X half had a lot of promise and stuff. And I agree with pretty much everything that Jordan said there. He really hit it on the head. Like the autofocus performance isn't great. The XT33 is fine. And that's really all they came out with at the last half of the year. And notably, no lenses, no optics.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
So they've actually had a really stagnant last year. They just shot their shot at the beginning, and it's petered out now at the end. So I was like, I'd give him a B. I'm going to give him a B minus, which is, a big drop from what I gave him. But the autofocus game has to improve. They're stagnant on lenses because, they do admittedly have a big ecosystem. And their bodies are great. They're still fantastic. They just shot everything out at the start of the year. So.
And they usually get a nice bump for the GFX line, which has been quiet this year.
Yes. Yeah.
Gordon, you gave Fujifilm an A.
I did, because I think even though they reused a lot of technologies on their products this year, the sheer breadth of formats was
Totally
impressive, to say the least. Lest we forget the Instax models as well that were in there. We had a wide earlier. We had a Leplay Plus in the second half of this year. By the way, if you are confused whether to get a Leplay Plus or an Evo, because they are very similar, I made a video all about that. So check that out. Oh, an advert! An advert! Sponsored by Camera Labs. There was a lens in the second half of 13 to 33. 13 to 30. You can unmute me now because I've stopped. 13 to 33 kit zoom for the XT33. I don't like saying XT33. Because if you say it in one go, it's XT33, and it's the XT33. So I call it the XT30 Mark III, and you would not believe the consternation this has caused.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say so much hate, but people are like, why don't you call it what it is? It's an XT33. It doesn't cause a problem for other YouTubers, they say. I'm like, come on, man. I'm just trying to make it easier to understand. I just don't want to say XT33. Is it that big a deal? And sometimes I wear a hat indoors. Anyway,
Gordon, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the whole mark terminology a very British thing anyways? Like,
is it? I don't know. It might be.
I think
officially speaking, like Canon, it is the EOS R6 Mark III. It has got Mark, the name. Sony doesn't. It's not the A7 Mark V. It's the A7, and it's not even the A. It's the Alpha 7 V. But none of us can write. Who searches for that? I mean, it's SEO unfriendly. That's just Sony, sort it out. What do we call it? Anyway, Fujifilm. I gave him an A. Oh yeah, before I give you my final verdict, I would say that I think when they're now squeezing the last drops out of those two sensors that they use, the 40 megapixel and the even older 26, and it's like surely now is the time. The next one surely has to be the next generation. And which body will it go into? Obviously, it has to be a flagship one to start off with. Could it be a new X Pro that everyone's been hoping for? I think it has to be next year. There has to be a new sensor, and it'll either be in an XH, an XT6, or an X Pro. And I'm going to put my money, since you probably won't invite me on to bold predictions, I'm going to say X Pro. But anyway,
you're stealing my bold predictions.
It's 2 weeks away.
We're doing ranking the brands. So I'm going to say that just for the sheer breadth of formats and such a strong start, I'm still going to go with an A.
Whoa.
I'm going to give them an A overall this year.
Well, there you
What do
go.
you think
You
about
know what?
that?
You, in fact, are right. I also will agree that Fujifilm has had an A year because of all the things you said and more. We didn't talk about the GFX Eterna, which I think is worthy of mentioning. Not necessarily if you don't like the hardware, that's fine. But we got LUTs. We got official LUTs that were free that work on F-Log and F-Log 2C and F-Log, just regular F-Log,
2.
right? F-Log 2? F-Log, whatever.
F-Log
Anyway,
2 and F-Log 2C. Yeah.
the most recent, if you have a most recent Fujifilm camera, you can probably take advantage of these. And I also agree with Gordon that as far as like looking at the way that that we have the lifespan of Fujifilm's processors and sensors, I do think we're at the tail end. And knowing that we're at the tail end, what has Fujifilm done to still make their products interesting? I think the XE5 is one of the most pretty cameras they've made. I really like that camera. I would probably get one if I didn't have an X100 because I just put a 35 on there anyway, so it doesn't really matter. It's redundant for me. I also think the X-Half, you have to applaud a company for doing something fun and weird. Like, they deserve credit for doing something fun and weird.
Sure, but it has to hit.
It doesn't necessarily. I think
They've
the
got
only
so
reason...
many cameras in their range, it's okay for them to do a weird one. And it's
be a
also
weirdo.
okay to not like a Fujifilm camera.
Correct,
We
because
don't
there's
all have to
1,000
love all of
others.
them.
Yeah.
Exactly right. And we were talking about entry level. You look at the X-Half and the XM5. I mean, to call a camera of that price entry level is still a bit hard because it's still a lot of money. But at least they're making something that XM5 looked nice as well.
Great
and it was lower price. They are making entry level products. Sony needs to think about that.
Yeah, Fujifilm, people talk that Fujifilm has too many products. And I think there's an argument to be made for that. Like, they make too many cameras. But at least they give you options in ways no one else does. Like the XT33, it does indeed fill a gap that is needed that Sony doesn't fill. Sony doesn't fill that gap. And I think it's a camera that fits. It's not for me, but I can see who it's for. So I give them an A. I think they did a really good job this year. And I also, Gordon, I'm with you. You spoiled my bold prediction for next year, but I do believe we're getting a new sensor, a new processor, and then to kick off that new amount of time, I think we are getting a new X Pro next year. That's my...
Can I just ask the group here, since we're with friends here, what would you want to see from a new Fujifilm sensor? I'm going to jump in first and say I want an AF system that for video doesn't stop halfway to the target. To go,
that would be great.
Am I still? Yeah, I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
I don't know why it does that. It goes, no, what was that? Oh, I'm going to keep going. And then it lands perfectly. It doesn't hunt, but it always has on my tests. I don't know if this happens to anyone else. It stops halfway. So I would like it to not stop halfway. In terms of the image quality, the resolution and everything, sure, it could be faster, but, fine.
I think the 40 is there. I love that sensor. So
Nobody else can touch it, or nobody else wants to touch it.
If they keep in the 40 range and either partially stack or stack, I think we'd be cooking with gas.
I'd be happy with a 26 megapixel sensor if the camera could focus the way the other cameras focus. That's what I want. That's the big downside right now. Otherwise, Fujifilm's going to get relegated to making really sexy shoulder cameras. And I think that X-Half is going to be the queen of the used market here because no one's going to want to buy it new.
Yeah, I just think...
What if it had an Instax printer in it? Would that make it any better, the X-Half?
What were you going to say, Jordan?
I think, a faster 40 would be great because you are really making compromises between that and the 26 right now. Mm-hmm. But more importantly, I want to see a medium format sensor that makes sense for video. If we're moving into medium format video, give me a sensor designed for that from the ground up.
Yeah. You know what I really want is I want two of those 40 megapixel sensors right next to each other.
That's the GFX 100 RF in its cropped mode, though.
I don't want it cropped.
Exactly it.
I don't want it cropped.
He wants it to be small and sexy and maybe shaped like, I don't know,
with maybe like a wood
A
handle on it.
72 by 24 sensor would be hot.
Yeah.
I'm
like
on
maybe
Jaren's
a
team here.
DX1 that takes his TX1 lenses. I don't know. Maybe
my
some.
heart.
I don't know.
My heart.
Anyways, we
That
gotta
would be
move on.
so awesome if they kept the same mount. Oh, all right. We're going to move on. Hasselblad, we didn't have any grades at the beginning of the year, but Hasselblad did do stuff this year, include release a camera that has impressed a great many people, including most of Japan, where they can't keep it in stock. Jordan, how did Hasselblad do this year?
I did not have them on my list because they weren't
Yeah,
in the
you
first half of the
added
year.
this.
I dropped
What
it
did they
on you.
even do this year besides the new X2D?
They also brought out that
that
new
was it, wasn't
standard zoom, which you really liked, Chris.
Oh,
We were
yeah.
pretty impressed with the images from that. I forget the focal length. God help me. I'm unprepared for this.
I
Yeah,
got
me
you.
You know what? Some innovative new tech. Like, I do actually like the concept of HDR top to bottom workflow. It was cool to open up focus on a MacBook Pro and be looking at a ton of contrast there. So I'm going to give them an A- this year. Having 10 stop IBIS, that IBIS is insanely effective
very, very
for a
good.
medium format.
Yeah.
Like to shoot 102 megapixels, crop way in at a tenth of a second, and it's sharp. That's
It's
amazing.
a 35 to 100, by the way, Jordan.
Oh, yes.
Thank you. The
35
35 to 100, Chris said he liked quite a bit.
I did like. You know what? All their lenses are great though. Like all their lenses they make are very good. They're just super expensive, and so it is very niche. I don't know. I mean, I like the X2D2 as much as it sounds like a Star Wars character. I mean, it's a beautiful body design. It does work well, but it's very pretty. But I still feel like it's so luxurious. It's just not practical for a lot of people. The one thing that's really interesting to me about Hasselblad is how much they're now starting to buy into the DJI technology that they have access to, and so that's
LiDAR.
exciting. As we go further in with their cameras, like HDR was cool, LiDAR is cool, like these are neat things. Although again, I didn't find the LiDAR really did that much to improve the autofocus. Honestly, I really didn't. But it's cool technology. So will that improve as we go forward? It'd be nice to have luxurious cameras that are desirable beyond just the sake of them being prestigious, right? So they hopefully can add better autofocus to and better image quality to an already sexy camera. But I don't know, B minus, like it's still such a small company in that regard in what they actually release and don't release. So I'd have to wait and see what they do next year.
Gordon?
Well, I skipped the X2D2 when it was first announced, but I always had it in the back of my mind because I've always kind of quite liked the form factor and the feature set of that camera. So I hope to have a look at it in the new year, early in the new year, have a more kind of relaxed look at it. So I can't really give an educated response on that, but given that it was just one product, even a high-end one, and a lens, I don't know, B minus.
Oh, don't forget that backpack that Jared loves.
Yeah, that's right.
Jeez.
Okay, so I actually have traveled with it, and it's not perfect. The Hasselblad Vandra. What I do, I still
It's
appreciate.
a B minus backpack. Is that what you're saying?
I think it's a solid B backpack. There are some things that I would like to see changed about it, some things that can be added, but the core of the design of this bag is so neat that it's still like they need to be encouraged. Do more like this. This is a good thing.
All right.
So the Vandra, the lens, and the X2D 100C. I think the X2D 100C. I think they deserve a little clap because it's a really good camera. And I'm going to speak mostly for Jeremy here because I know Jeremy adored his time with this camera. He says
He
one
did
of his
have a good
favorite
time.
cameras he's used in a long time. I will give them a solid B. This is a great show, so good work. All right, next one is OM System. Jordan, you gave them a C+. Where do they stand?
All right, this year we have seen, or in this back half of it, we've seen the OM52. Which, added a USB-C port. Like, really, it does feel like they're just keeping up for European compliance. So I was going to be like, oh, terrible. But they brought out the 50 to 200, which is the first completely unique lens design that we've seen from them since switching the branding over from OM, because the 150 to 400 was still an Olympus lens announced before, and that lens was excellent. It is quite expensive. It does compare to the price of a 1 to 400 in full frame, but optically there was basically nothing to complain about with it. So I'm going to move them up to a C+ with the desperate plea for a body with new functionality. The OM3 was a new body, but it was a fun repackaging of all the different things that they already had in their back pocket.
You already gave them a C+, Jordan. You didn't move them up anyway. You kept them the same. You coasted.
Oh, I thought I had a C-. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm moving them to a... Do I want to go to a B- for one lens? I don't think I do.
It's okay to maintain. They coast just with the C+.
All right, I'm maintaining.
All right.
But I
For the
really like
sake of
that 50 to 200.
For the sake of time, I'm going to be quick. I'm going to maintain my C+ as well. That is a great lens. OM5 the tan is hot, but that's about it. Having used them recently in a very demanding situation, like I enjoy these cameras for what I've always said I enjoy them for, but we need to start seeing some improvements, which I've also said for a long time now. So C+, they have a lot of room to improve, and they really need to start doing it.
Gordon?
Well, the lens is obviously the main thing in the second half, and it is quite expensive. And I was a little bit skeptical at first, and I tested it, and it was good quality. But then I had the opportunity to take it, and an OM1, whatever the current high end Mark II or two, whatever it is.
OM2,
yeah. To a beach-based surf life-saving event, which is an all-day event at the beach, and you need a very flexible range because some subjects are very close; they're right in front of you. People diving around on the sand flying out into the air all over your camera and your optics, and then people going way out into the sea to do rescues. So you need something long, and you've got sea spray coming in. And it's an all-day event, so it's like 8 hours of this. And this combination, I thought, this is going to be tough for any camera system or combination. Those two products absolutely smashed it. Smashed it. And I covered it in my review of it. And I was really impressed. And it made me think, wow, this is not just an okay. This is a really viable system and combination for that kind of work. And it is expensive, especially when you compare it to what you can pick up the 40 to 152.8. But if you're sticking with Micro Four Thirds and you're committed to doing some high-end work with it, it is capable of doing it, and it did not let me down. I got loads of really good shots. So that really kind of kept them going for me this year. Jaron, what did I give them midway through?
You gave them a solid C.
Well, I think I'm going to have to go up, but I can't go up too much because it is just one lens. I'm going to give him. I'm going to give him a B-.
Oh,
but solid, really, really good lens that won't let you down.
Yeah. So this year in total, 100 to 400 f5 to 6.32. They made metal versions of the 17 f1.8 and the 25 f1.8. We got the OM3, which. Yeah, I actually like that camera. It's a little expensive, but I like that camera. We got the OM5 Mark II, which I actually think should honestly take points off the board. Like this is an insulting camera to me because it's not different than the three cameras that came before it. Like I'm sorry, like that's not okay. And then we did get the 50 to 200. So I'm with Chris. Not only do they need to actually do something real and different with the technology in their cameras, they actually need to step up the autofocus game a little bit.
For sure.
You've said this, Chris, and I'm going to make sure that it's known because I agree with what you're saying. It used to be good enough. Like it used to be like, yeah, fantastic. Everyone's at this point, but they haven't really improved enough as everyone else has improved. So it stands out more that it's not quite there. So for a wildlife system, which is what they really push for a lot of their lenses, it's got to get better. They have to invest in that, and they have to do something different in order for this to continue and take advantage of cool optics like a 50 to 200. So I know you want to say something, Chris, but I'm going to give my grade.
No. I mean, so I used a lot of the gear in Costa Rica recently, and it was very demanding. And of course, they stand up to the abuse. They're always great for that. No doubts about that. Always reliable. But it was a really challenging situation. Lots of low light and stuff. And I agree with you, Jared. I just feel like the technology is great for wildlife in some ways. I get the appeal of the smaller lenses, absolutely. But when push comes to shove, it is starting to show its age. And there were situations where it was starting to show its age. I took the OM5 Mark II there as well. And again, it's like, this feels like a camera from years ago.
It's
right?
because it is, Chris.
Yeah, because it is. So yeah, they really have to make a big change in the bodies. They're functional from a handling standpoint, but yeah, the technology has to improve. And if they can't do that, they are going to go further and further behind.
So I'm giving them a C+, a slight increase from my grade, which was a C in the midway point, because that 50 to 200 is so good.
Nice lens.
All right, we only have a couple more left. This one is, I think, another Gordon abstain. It's Leica. Is that correct?
No, I saw. I did the EV1.
You did?
Oh, okay, great. Because
Yeah.
you abstained at the midway point. All right, so Jordan, Leica, at the midway point of the year, you gave a D.
Yep.
Okay, and
I'm moving up a little bit. Yeah, I mean, the SL3S was not a good camera, and it's an even worse camera now that the S1 II is out. So that really hit them at the first half of the year. Since then, they brought out the MEV1, which I didn't use extensively, but I didn't care for. I would rather use an M-mount adapter on another mirrorless camera that's a little bit more functional than that. But they brought out the Q3 monochrome, and that is something that still sets Leica completely apart, are the monochrome models that they use, and the Q3 is one of my favorite cameras ever produced. So that's going to bump things up a little bit. So I am giving them a C overall for this year. I'd love to see some new glass. I don't know why Leica's been so quiet on the glass front lately.
Chris, you gave them an L.
Yeah. And I will continue to give them an L. That is my grade for Leica. And just for people that might not know the context, the L grade is because Leica doesn't care. They make weird cameras. I mean, the MEV1 and the Q3 monochrome are actually perfect examples of this. I'm a bit of an MEV1 apologist. I think if you've got a camera company like Leica, which make 46,000 variations of their cameras every year, whether it's limited editions and stuff, or monochrome versions and stuff, it's not so much about innovation. It's just about like making different versions of the same camera. And the MEV1 is at least an innovation in a different direction. It's at least the first time they've ever put an EVF into a rangefinder. And I do feel like it has absolute utility. And for those people that are going to say, oh, it doesn't have the soul, it's not the same experience. Totally. But Leica would be the first to admit that. They didn't make it saying, this is the best way to shoot a rangefinder. Everybody should go this way. They said, hey, there might be a small subsect of our customers that will really appreciate this different interface. And in that regard, absolutely. Adapted glass, it's fantastic. If you have eye trouble, it might be really helpful. It's not any faster to use than a manual focus rangefinder. It's just different. And I think it was not a bad move. I mean, it's a cool camera for people that need that experience. And the Q3 monochrome, I apologize for that too, because I love monochrome. I love that they're one of the only companies that really push monochrome. By far, the only company that pushes it as far as they do by incorporating it to so many different bodies. And I think it's a great experience. Is it practical? Who cares? It is a great experience. Leica just play in a different league than other companies. They just don't care what other people think, because they know that they make interesting products. People are going to enjoy it. So they get another L grade from me this year.
Gordon.
Yeah, I'm going to pretty much agree with Chris there. The MEV1, it does kind of lack soul. It's a rangefinder that doesn't have a rangefinder. And it has that same issue that the GFX 100 RF has, that there's no little square in the top right corner. It kind of aesthetically doesn't tick those boxes. But if you do want to do macro photography or super telephoto photography or ultra wide angle photography with a Leica body and M glass, then yeah, it's the camera for you. And obviously if you want the greater eye relief, or that can help there. But as Chris says, it's not design. I've not reviewed many Leica products, so I came in and looked at it as a more kind of general thing for me personally, and of course it doesn't tick those boxes. But when you look at the range as a whole and they do all those different versions, then yeah, it makes complete sense for the people who have that specific requirement. I was much more excited by the Q3. I love the Q3 43 more than the Q3, but I love that they are doing mono versions. I think that's fun, but I think they're ungradable really, so I've not been very helpful. Sorry.
Ungradable.
Gordon gives him an L as well.
I'm going to go C because of the lack of new lenses. Give me some new lenses. Like even an M mount. That'd be neat.
Especially M mount. Why not?
Yeah, it's kind of odd that they came out with a new M-mount camera and no lens. Maybe I'm spoiled.
Everybody else is.
Fujifilm. Everyone else makes M-mount lenses. Maybe I'm spoiled by Fujifilm, but every time we get a new Fujifilm camera, it comes with a new lens. So I just felt like it should have happened, and it didn't. Two more. Sigma. The scores across the board were glowing midpoint of the year. So Chris, Jordan, you gave them an A+. Everyone else gave them an A. So where do they end the year, Jordan?
Well, I have now used the Izu primes that factored in enormously to my A+ on that, dropping a whole series of lenses along with all the cool stuff they're doing. The 135-1.4 is the most fun I've had with a camera lens this year. I love 135s. That lens is basically flawless, except that it's big. It's not even that expensive. It's the same as the 1.8s from the other manufacturers. The 35-1.2, I was ever so slightly disappointed with. It just some of the compromises to keep the size and weight down, I think. But I mean, yeah, it's so much good stuff. I'm going to stick with an A+ for this year. Like, just knocking it out of the park.
Is A+ a grade, though? It is, yeah.
I did, yeah.
Is it a real? I don't know. You know, I'm going to stick with my. It's not a real grade, but that's okay. That's okay. I think
it was acceptable at the midpoint. We can't suddenly change the rules, or it'll look like the second half they sucked, and they didn't.
You know, they really made so many cool optics the first half of the year, and they've made so many cool optics the second half of the year, and covering a lot of different price points. I mean, certainly they're showing they can make some really sexy, i.e. expensive stuff, but still for way less than other people are making it. The Sigma 200 f2, awesome experience with that. Shooting baseball, it just killed it. Like, shallow depth of field, great for portraits, great for sports and action. A highly specialized lens, but nobody else is making that for mirrorless other than Laowa, and there were some real issues there. Whereas this 200mm f2 is just bam, like so good. And a serious consideration if you have an E-mount camera for sure, where it can really make use of that as well. Otherwise, 20-200, love that. What a cool travel lens. Ultra wide range, great macro out of it. Like, you know, they're just showing when they make an optic, they seem to be dialed in on what most people are going to appreciate and really deliver that. And again, like they're really fighting the fight as far as keeping their prices down as much as they can, because everything's going expensive, and you know, tariffs are brutal, and they're like, man, we're going to try to eat a little bit more as much as we can. So like, kudos to them. Yeah, they continue their A for me.
Gordon?
Yeah, tremendous year for Sigma. I mean, not counting those cinema lenses, 9 in total this year, non-cinema lenses. First half was super strong. Second half, as you've said, the 200 f2, 135-1.4 for the bokeh fiends out there at a ridiculously affordable price for what they're offering you. 35-1.2 Mark II, showing that they're willing to update some older models, and then the 20-200 at the kind of budget end. So they're like, yeah, high end, yeah, update, yeah, entry level, everything. And you know, it's a super zoom that covers all situations. 20-200, 20 starts at 20. Yeah. I'm still excited by the Panasonic 20-60, but it ends at 60. This ends at 200. So you know, this is really good. The thing I would say about the sports aspect with the 200 f2, because I have also tested the Laowa, and you know, a quick shout out to Laowa for doing an even more affordable 200 f2. Obviously it's not gonna, I tested the EF version and adapted it to mirrorless, but also tried it on EOS DSLRs, and I think I had a better experience autofocus wise than a lot of people who had the Sony version, but we're talking about Sigma. The Sigma was definitely way more confident and better quality overall. But it is kind of restricted by Sony's bodies when you're doing continuous autofocus in bursts. Sigma and Panasonic don't have a truly decisive L-mount sports camera. And I feel that is holding back the potential for lenses like the 200 f2, the 300-600, and some other lenses that they have. The Sigma 500mm as well. Remember that gorgeous lens? Imagine what that would be like if you were able to shoot at 60 frames per second or something. So I would like to see that resolved, but that's not their issue really. It's kind of because they have suggested that they might do a sports body.
Kazuna-san says he wants to make a camera worthy of these lenses, but man, they don't go fast on that development process.
Exactly.
So it could be a while.
That is a tough call for any of them. I mean, they all want to be able to do supremely confident AF at high burst speeds, but it's difficult. So good luck to them, and I really hope that there is an L-mount solution for that going forward. But in terms of a brand, what an amazing year. I think I gave them an A midway, and I just have to say overall A+, which I think, looking through all of the brands that I covered this year, I'd say there've been some strong performers, but I think Sigma did best of all for me this year.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I want to call out that the autofocus that they somehow put in the BF is shockingly good. Not just that it's actually good in compared to everything, but in a Sigma vacuum.
I agree.
It's shockingly good.
I want to temper that though, because the only camera we've seen it on is the Sigma BF, which in my opinion has a horrible interface and is not something that we can use to really test for sports and action in that regard. I wonder how it would hold up to a serious situation, but absolutely the tracking. It's the closest I've seen to like Sony's real-time tracking on.
And the reason I wanted
objects.
to call it out is because it came out of nowhere. Like
nowhere.
Nobody expected anything out of a Sigma camera. It was supposed to just be this fun little, niche, cute thing for Kazuto-san, except buried within it is this autofocus algorithm, which is somehow brilliant, especially compared to where Sigma came from prior.
I expected Panasonic autofocus out of it.
And you got near Sony for
it was
what you
cool.
could test. So I think, everything they said, fantastic year. Once again, Sigma just crushing it. The most active brand in the camera industry, I think, making stuff, having things out there. Really good year for them. And the fact that they do it in one factory, all of this stuff is wild to me, that it's all coming out of Japan. It's all coming at this price, and it's all coming with this frequency. There's no way they keep this up. They've got to take a break and breathe here. But for 2025, outstanding. Finally, Tamron, last one. Jordan, you gave them a C+. Where did they end the year?
Yeah, all right. I'm dropping them down to a C- this time. They did bring out the 25-200, the follow-up to the 28-200, which I do like quite a bit because it's faster than most of the super zooms. It's a 28-5.6, but it got completely upstaged by the Sigma 20-200. Putting those two side by side, it's just more versatility. The Sigma's a better macro. It goes wider. I'm willing to trade a third of a stop of light
and $100
for that. And $100 more for the Sigma. But I really want to see more from that. Like there was that beautiful period where they were dropping like the 35-150, like some premium, really genuinely surprising optics. And they've just been extremely conservative. Even like last year, they brought out a Prime again, another version of their legendary 90 macro. I was hoping we'd see more primes this year. Still nothing from them. So, I'm disappointed. Like the 25-200 is a good lens. In a vacuum, it'd be fine. But I need more than that.
Chris, you gave them a C.
Yeah, they've had a bad year. Like, what has really come out? It wasn't a great start to the year. It's a bad end to the year. The 25-200s are a fine lens. It's very nice. The bokeh is actually quite beautiful, but it's not a bokeh lens. And it's just not nearly as versatile as the Sigma. The macro is basically unusable. So, I'm going to go D+, dude. Honestly, I'm going to be mean. I'm going to be mean because, look, especially when you see companies like Sigma doing what they're doing, it's really hard for Tamron. So, I don't know what they could do to make it better, but clearly their production strategy, their survival strategy has shifted to making lenses for other people. That's fine, but it's not a super exciting kind of thing then for whatever. So I love the lenses they do make. The one thing you got to say about Tamron is when they make a lens, it's usually quite good. Their G2 versions of their lenses are very nice, but there's no excitement there. And I feel bad about the 25-200 because Sigma just stole their thunder, in my opinion, right there. Just nice lens, check this out. And
It actually was the other way around. Sigma announced first, and Tamron followed up, and they tried to steal
obviously
thunder.
The release was at the same time, right? They were all both committed by that point. So it's tough, man. It's tough. I don't know.
Gordon?
Maybe I don't know. It's tough.
They don't supply me, so I'll abstain.
Well,
then let's drop their grade even lower for not supporting our friend Gordon.
So
exactly.
I think that Tamron has essentially said, "Okay, Sigma, you win." Their way that they've shifted their business model to making lenses for Nikon. Basically, let's be real. They're making Nikon lenses. They make other lenses. More than half of their business is making lenses for other people. They don't release much throughout the year. They don't release primes anymore. I think They looked at the board and were like, from a business perspective, how are we supposed to compete with that? They look at Sigma's line and be like, what? How is it possible for us to compete with that at these prices with our technology? And the board was like, we can't. And so they're like, cool, we'll switch our business model. I would love to be proven wrong in the coming years. I would love to see them come out and be like, you know what, Jaron, you're wrong. We can do this stuff. But it's they can.
Let's be clear. They're a fantastic design house. They have very talented engineers.
But they haven't proven it in years.
Awesome optics.
They haven't proven it in years.
We need to know. I want a list of all the other OEM lenses Tamron's making, and we can be like, oh yeah, they're crushing.
They won't tell us.
I mean, in the last few years, they've been making the G2 zooms are awesome.
Yeah,
they're great.
70 to 180 honks.
But they seeded primes. They did. They seeded primes.
They did seed primes. Yeah, they did. And they could, if they could. You're right. They could if they. I'm just saying, if they wanted to, from an optical technology standpoint,
but
they absolutely could. But will they? No, I don't think so.
And I'm wondering if it's because they decided it would cost too much, or maybe they can't design it as well. Like it wouldn't be as pretty. Somehow, Kazuto-san just pulled the rug out from under them and went super high end, seemingly out of nowhere. And Tamron, I don't think, ever fully recovered from that. So, from a marketing standpoint,
yes,
I'm going to go
market their lenses very well. Yeah,
I'm going to join Jordan with a C-, and that is everything. So,
wow.
Any closing thoughts, gentlemen?
We appreciate you being here, Gordon. Yes,
I appreciate being asked. Thank you.
We like having you.
I'm sorry it went so long.
Well, that's it for
let's
this.
play.
I love all the comments on these ones which go, "Not him again."
That has never happened.
Isn't there anyone else?
Comments.
I'm like, Mom.
Gordon, why don't you
plug your stuff?
Yeah, plug. Give us what should people care about?
All right, if you want even more of me and you're not fed up with just the camera stuff, I've got my vintage cameras on Dinobytes. I have a coffee channel which launched on the last episode that I was on, so 6 months old, 50 videos in of some really nice cafes around the world. If you're interested in that. And also my travel tips channel, which I rarely mention, but it's a bit of fun if you want to see some interesting travel hacks.
Yeah, I checked out some of your Japanese museum recos because I'm planning a trip here. So Gordon just always coming through for me on all fronts, and it's always great to see him in.
Here to help you.
Thank you, Gordon.
Thanks, Gordon.
Have a lovely
holiday.
Thank
you very much.
Yes. Have a lovely holiday.
Yeah, you too. And to all the viewers and listeners out there, a happy holiday to you too.